I came to a lot of conclusions. I didn't realize, I thought it would just kind of be a brainless show for the most part, like a kind of you could just put it on, it's stress free, have a couple giggles, and go to sleep. And most episodes are, but I really did start to interact with these characters. First of all, let's talk about some overarching theories. There's tons of Office theories out there because after I watched the season, I then started going down the YouTube rabbit holes and seeing what people were thinking and how people were reacting to it. And there really is a huge subculture of Office theorists and different things people have picked out from the episodes, and most of them are nonsense. Most of them are ridiculous. But the one thing I will say is that I am positive that Toby is definitely the Scranton Strangler. I think 100% he's the Scranton Strangler. People go, well, the one piece of evidence I feel like that people have that they say that Toby can't be the Scranton Strangler is because it would have been too difficult to get on jury duty. Like, what are the odds that that would happen? And while that's true, there's so much absurdity on The Office that I think in the world that The Office takes place in, Toby would end up on that jury duty. I wouldn't be surprised. The coincidence would be in the fact that he got called for jury duty in that moment. Because once he found out that the case was the Scranton Strangler, yeah, he would have the way we all act in jury duty, where we just give answers to try to get out of it. He would give all the answers to try to get on the case. So there are ways around it. And if you go through it, right, like this becomes his whole thing. By season 8 and season 9, he's obsessed with the fact that he was on this jury. So Scranton Strangler pops up in like season 4. And I feel like over the course of season 4 and 5, it's very heavily hinted that it could be Dwight. That Dwight Schrute could be the Scranton Strangler. But here's why no. Dwight is less emotional than that. You know, he doesn't act out emotionally. He definitely is I mean, maybe a little bit conniving, maybe a little bit brooding. He might act with it between he might exist between the rules, you know, in order to get done what he needs to get done.
But the strangling is an emotional thing.
Exactly. Strangling is an emotional thing. And if you recall, Dwight was also part of the force to try to stop the Scranton Strangler. Like, remember he was in that, whatever it was called, the fake Guardian Angels group that Jim walked in on when he was there for the weekend. Like Dwight is far more likely to impersonate a police officer. I mean, remember when he proposed to Angela? He put a siren on the top of his car. He's obsessed.
He's a law and order guy.
He's a law and order guy. He's obsessed with discipline. He likes to be a disciplinarian, but he likes to do it in a way that is socially acceptable. He not only, because you could say, well, if he's a disciplinarian, he wants to punish people and he wants to strangle them. And while that could be true, he doesn't just want to discipline people. He wants that discipline to set an example, meaning he wouldn't do it in private. He would do it for the world to see so they would know you can't do this because here comes Dwight. So you can't strangle people doing that. So I think that there's no way it was Dwight Schrute. Some people think it was what's his name, who came from Florida, the creepy guy.
Florida.
You remember it was
the tall dude that came with the old lady.
Yeah, it was he was from Sabre, the assistant.
Yeah.
Some people think it was him, but I don't. I don't think it was. I wish I remembered his name, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was him, just because I think he's too weak. I don't think he's physically strong enough to choke anybody, and I also don't think he has the balls to do it. I think he's the type that, like, you would find a manifesto in his apartment, but he never will have acted on any of it because Gabe is an impish person, and so I don't think he would have acted out in that way. I'll tell you why I think it's Toby for a few reasons. Number one, there's this great Easter egg, and it could be coincidence, but in the car chase where they're going after the Scranton Strangler, that car is also seen in the parking lot of Dunder Mifflin in certain episodes. Which, again, could just be coincidence. It's the only car they had on set. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. But It's fun to add that to the theory that we've seen that car that was in the Scranton Strangler police chase in the parking lot. Now you're saying, well, Toby wasn't arrested. It was, hang on, I wrote his name down. I wrote the Strangler's name down. It was George Howard Scub that was arrested. And while that's true, that doesn't mean that Toby didn't frame somebody and put them in his car, which is my theory, that Toby framed a man and put him in his car and led the police on that this guy probably thought he was doing something else and didn't realize that he was a patsy to be the Scranton Strangler. Toby mutters under his breath multiple times that he's going to kill people. At one point, Michael Scott he goes like, something is the silent killer. And Michael Scott goes, no, Toby, you are the silent killer. And Toby goes, oh, you just wait. Like he says that under his breath. He goes, you just wait. And then there's another scene where Jim is in the office with Toby, and he's asking Toby advice when Jim and Pam are going through marital strife. He's asking Toby for advice, and Dwight Jr., Clark, interrupts them. And he tells Dwight Jr., get the hell out of there. And then he's like, oh, I hate that kid. I'm going to kill him. And then he starts talking to Jim again. And it's just such a weird, I'm going to kill him. You're like, okay, I think they're trying to tell me something here. His motivation, some people say his motivation would be that, Michael Scott just drove him crazy because he hated him so much. It was just so mean to him all the time. But I don't think
mean.
So mean. So he hates Toby, which is great. But I don't think that's it. I think the motivating factor is his unrequited love for Pam. And the fact that he had to swallow that for so long. I mean, Toby, from very early in the show, is clearly in love with Pam. But it's so not a storyline because nobody in the office knows it. And Pam doesn't even know it. And she never does. And you just watch her. I mean, it's like Hot Dog watching every person he's ever had a crush on in the office. Mm-hmm. Like, you watch them just go off with their Prince Charming.
And you never hear a peep?
Never hear a peep. And nobody ever goes like nobody would ever say, oh man, Pam should have ended up with Toby. Like that's when you go crazy. When your love is so unrequited that you would go like, oh, I wish she would leave like Jim and go with me, Toby. And everybody that you said that to would be like, oh God, that would be a horrible idea. So that's what I think his motivation is. The other thing is, and this becomes a big thing, he loves talking about his time on jury duty, loves talking about the case. And I mean, that at most killers, when they finally get to confessing, they confess to even more stuff that they didn't do because they love that attention so much. They love confessing. Not only does he love talking about the case, but immediately after, he starts having guilt. That's the theme. For some reason, he feels like this guy got framed and he felt pressured and that he has put an innocent man in jail. He's driven crazy with guilt because he's put an innocent man in jail. Now, why would he think that he was framed? Why would he think he's put an innocent man in jail? Because he did put an innocent man in jail because Toby's the one that framed the innocent man. Then he tells, what's her name, Millie, after telling Millie the whole story in graphic detail, he tells Millie that he wants to go and visit the Scranton Strangler in jail and kind of get it off his chest. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the cameras can't follow him into the jail, and he comes out and he's been strangled. It just goes from the shot of Toby going in to talk to him to the shot of the gurney and the hospital workers going in to follow him. And then he gets strangled.
I figured that was the point. I mean, doesn't that debunk everything? The fact that he went to visit the person and got strangled?
Here's why it doesn't debunk it. What if the guy that he framed is a big, strong man, and when he went in to talk to him, he wasn't getting off his chest, hey, I felt pressured in the jury box, I don't know. And by the way, he wants to be friends with him. And you hear him outside the jail going, I don't know what's going to happen, but could we become friends? Yes. So he wants these guys. It's like really weighing on him heavy. My theory is that he told him that he is Scranton Strangler. My theory is that at that point, the guy that he framed finds out that Toby is the Scranton Strangler and put him in jail. And that's why he strangles Toby, because he's so pissed. And then Toby gets taken out. That's why that theory is not debunked. Just because, like, Scranton Strangler is not the only person to ever strangle anybody. You know, if you get mad at somebody, you might choke somebody.
My choke a bitch.
Wayne Brady did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just saw there's a popular video on YouTube that has 8 million views, and it's making a strangler, The Office. And it's a 10-minute
I
investigation on Toby.
I watched that too, and it's from The Office's YouTube channel, and it's not even original stuff. It's basically just all the Scranton Strangler stuff. It's all the Strangler scenes. And yeah, I mean, when you watch it, you go, no, it's Toby. Toby did it. Toby did it for sure. People are in here saying Gabe. People are in the chat right now saying no, it was Gabe. I don't think so. Mads thinks it was E-Rock, but I don't think I'm almost sure it wasn't E-Rock. And Mark Chapman says Sam's making The Office sound like Twin Peaks. Look, I look into stuff. This is what I do for wrestling too. I go deep, and I go through character analysis.